How's it going, everybody? This is Pastor Chris coming to you with Just a Thought. Just a Thought is our weekly devotional where we refocus our hearts on God and try to move towards a more spiritual place as the week often pulls and pushes us with responsibilities and obligations that we have. We want to remember what our purpose is in it. Today, is a question that comes up quite often for us as we are around major holidays or events, things that we try to plan in order so that they go the way we want them to. This is something that happens all the time, but I find it happens more often when we're around these major holidays because whether we're hosting or whether we have a vision in our mind for how things should work, we tend to try to manipulate the circumstances either to recreate some of our old and favorite memories or because we want it to be perfect for the other people who are involved. The question is, how do we interact with the world around us? How do we go through our lives encountering the sequence of events that inevitably happens, which we're not in control of? And what do we do with those things once we're aware that we have no control? This can apply to anything in this world. It can be nature, going for a stroll, walking around the park. Maybe you're enjoying a weekend at the lake and you want to go boating, you want to do whatever the case may be. Or it can also apply to people. You're having people over and you want them to have a perfect experience. You're interacting with someone and they maybe disagree with you or say something that is challenging to the assumptions that you have to the world. When we encounter these things, nature or people, do we take the time to manipulate what's happening so that it fits the mold that we think is right? Or do we watch what's happening and try to see what God is doing in the moment? For the best of us, it's both. Some things should go a certain way, and we just hold that as a truth in our minds, and we have to touch the situation. We have to set it up so that it's going to go the way that we want it to. And it can be challenging as things unfold to really sit back and allow God the space to work and to speak in the moments that happen in front of us. There's a wonderful little term of buzzwords where there are certain phrases, there are certain words that enter into a conversation and they instantly lock us into place on what our expectations for what comes next will be. And the wonderful truth about God and the world that God created for us is it doesn't work that way. Someone can have Someone can use any of these buzzwords. Something can happen that reminds us of a previous event, and yet events will unfold outside of that in a way that no one could possibly predict. And God speaks to us in moments such as these. God talks to us through people who we disagree with. God moves through nature and allows us to see these incredible spectacles which we had no right to ask for and we would have fallen way short of if we tried to plan. There's a quote that I want to share with you that's written by Henry Newell, in which he's talking about how we can experience these things letting God take the driver's seat, so to speak. It's impressive to see how prayer opens one's eyes to nature. Prayer makes men contemplative and attentive. In place of manipulating, a man who prays stands receptive before the world. He no longer grabs, but he caresses. He no longer bites, but kisses. He no longer examines, but admires. To this man, nature can show itself completely renewed, and instead of an obstacle, it becomes a way. Instead of an invulnerable shield, it becomes a veil which gives a preview to unknown horizons. God, the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit working in our lives, does amazing things each and every day and shows us paths that are better than the ones which, if we got our way all the time, they would fall way short of what God has planned for us. Now, God's plans we can't change, but sometimes it seems like we just fight against them the whole time. God calls us to be active in the world, but also to witness what God is doing. So take the time this week to recognize the moments when your presuppositions form what you think is going to happen next. Recognize that. Step back and say, what might God be doing here? And it might open your eyes to something more beautiful, to something more wonderful, to something new that helps us grow in ways that we never expected. And when that happens, you will truly be living faithfully for what God has for you next. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you all are feeling God's Spirit moving with you. And I hope this question kind of gives you a little bit of a plan on how to really experience what God is doing in your life. Peace be with you, and God bless.